Beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the Court of the EDI Jester. How are we, everybody? 'Tis I. God. Right, I've been having a mull, as one does occasionally. After one's had one's breakfast, I have a mull. And I have. Something really, sort of entered my mind and started festering away over the last couple of days, so I thought I'd share some of my thoughts with you about it. I've always maintained, and I still do maintain, despite the fact that when it comes to the ground, the sort of front coalface of fighting this culture war, which the left mostly don't even want to talk about. What do they call it? A so-called this supposed culture war. When you see the commentators on television, well, if they weren't so interested in fighting this supposed culture war, they all say that sort of ridiculous nonsense. They say, well, this is a culture war that really is just a load of nonsense. It's all based on nothing. It's hot air, and they're all conspiracy theorists. That's the general reaction we get from people, and I can understand why they say it. I understand why they think it. It's not difficult to understand why they do and why they don't in any real sense of the word. But I've always maintained that despite all the scrapping, all that's going on, all the scrapping, and whoever that scrapping may be from the early days right the way through to today, whoever's scrapping with whoever's scrapping with, that at heart, this is an educational issue. And now people will scream, yeah, but you teach, and therefore it's by confirmation bias, blah blah blah. Maybe it is confirmation bias. Maybe it's not. But I would say that it's an intriguing idea to me that some of this, if not all of it, can be so simply undermined if one can get in the right position to do it. Now there's the rub, is that if one can get, because you could do anything, but you've got to be in the right position to do it. It's got to be the right time. And I was mulling on this when I was asked by a couple of people, can you put something together for young people to watch? Right? And I thought about it and I put some thoughts down on paper, and I recorded a couple of things that I thought, what would I say and what would it look like? And no matter which way I cut it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. And the reason that it won't work is because information exchange, that's what we're doing now, right? Fairly straightforward. If you want to learn something quick, you can listen to a podcast, or you can, talk to, or you can watch a video like I'm doing today, teach you something quick, you know what I mean? That kind of thing, right? You learn a recipe, or just general conversation, is not really the forum or has the capability of doing something which requires deep intellectual and emotional engagement with. And that's the biggest problem that I've got, is how do we get that through the screen? You can't get it through the screen, right? But you can get it through talking to people, right? Through a screen, which is how most things are done these days. This itself has its own challenges, I would state, right? So many of you will have been on a Zoom call or a Teams call. You've done it. I had some woman fell asleep. So I was doing this training, right? And I was helping out with various bits and bobs. I wasn't the trainer. The trainer was some HR person, and she was very odd indeed, in that she either shouted or she spoke so quietly nobody could hear her. And I thought, well, is your tech all right? Well, it wasn't the tech, it was her. It was how she did things. Welcome to my training session. And then within 15 minutes, it was all, I'm going to say what's going on. And I could see people going closer to the screen. And I'm thinking, what's going on? So I messaged saying, what's up with your tech? They can't hear you. And then she started, can you hear me? She was like a sort of broken volume control. That when you click louder, it just goes to the loudest, and when you click, it goes to the lowest. Because within 10 minutes again, it was, if a phone come back. So anyway, I was watching these people who were obviously completely bloody bored with what was going on. Just looking at it thinking, and all of a sudden this woman slap bang in the middle, right in the middle of the Zoom screen, dropped off. She went like she was a blow-up doll that somebody punctured. She just, down she went. And I was like, oh my God, is she asleep, or is she, you don't know, do you? You don't know whether they're asleep or whether they've actually passed on and gone to meet the choir invisible. So I just said the trainer's name loudly. Hello! And this woman went, shut up! shot up and suddenly was wide awake, right? So these are there's 20 people in the room, So these are the types of experience I've had with this online training. And when you want somebody to engage with something on a deep intellectual level, you're unlikely to get that to happen if they're unfamiliar with the subject. If you're doing a video, you are less likely to get that. You are more likely to have that happen, that deep engagement, if they're in front of you in a one-on-one or with a few of you and just me. So these are the problems that surround how can you produce something that young people could watch that would make any sense. So I've been looking at it. I've been thinking about it quite a lot. And it's a difficult one because you've got different types of young people. You've got those who would be oppositional to the situation of the culture fight we find ourselves in, and those who would be in full agreement with cancel culture and with all the rubbish that comes out of the critical social justice ass piece. So I'm stuck, right? And I'm bringing it to you. So I'm stuck, right? What does it look like? What needs to be put in it? I know what needs to go in it, but what does it look like? It's a different story altogether. And I think that there's something we can do here that I'm just asking you to give some thought to, and let me know in the comments or on Twitter. I'm thinking about we need to isolate this out. And treat it for what it is, fantasy. Okay, that's what we need to do. So how would we do that? How do we do that for young people if you can't directly approach the problem itself in case you upset the young people who will then stop listening to you? How do we do it for people who are 14? What's the best way to do it? What's the best way to do it? Because they'll come across this crap before we even get anywhere near them or before anybody who's got the possibility to tell them something gets near them. So even if I did put something together, who the hell do I give it to? Who the hell do I send it? How the hell do we get it out there? Right? So I put something together. Right, so here we go. Right, let me just tell you about. If you'd like to know more, here's a session that's running. And I think that what we have to do is to put something together that undermines what you need in order to believe it. Do you get me? So it undermines what... Yes? Go and have a mull. It undermines, what do you need? What do you be able to believe all the crap? Let's take the trans nonsense. What do you need to believe that? Gullibility. You need confirmation bias. You need to be cognitively dissonant. You need to be unthinking and emotional. You need to be... So if I put together a session for young people, it should boulderize those 5 things, for example. It should literally cut them from under their thinking so that they can recognize if they're being any of those things. And by doing that, you undo the rest of it by default. Would that be something worth attempting? I'm coming to you and saying to you, you tell me. You tell me. Stick in the doobers, put it on Twitter. Is that what it should look like? Because I think that's what it's going to be. I've gradually been looking at it. It's taken a lot of thinking. But I think that's what it's going to be. 4 or 5 different theories that undermine the very thing that is required of your behaviour to turn you into an ideologue and a nutter for critical social justice. You undermine and you posit the reality of an individual, their ability to think and reason. And then once I've done that, once I've got it together and it's like, okay, you can, come along if you'd like to know more. There's a session, then I get people that will teach it. I'm not teaching it. I'm not going anywhere near it. But you get people that perhaps could manage an hour session with a group of young people that would gain from understanding particular ideas about how to be successful in the world, perhaps. I don't know. Anyway, I'm throwing it out there so that you can have a think and let me know. Let's use the hive mind in this case. Resistance is futile. I've always thought it was an educational problem that we have to unravel now. It wasn't before, but it is now. It's so ingrained in it. It's an educational problem. We have to educate it out as much as they've educated it in. But then I'm a teacher, and I would say that. Give us your thoughts. I'd like to know.